Hello, I'm DeDe. In this yoga session, we'll do 30 minutes of traditional poses while focusing our attention on foot placement, foot variations, and foot awareness. We'll do that in our standing poses. So here's what you'll need. If you're on a hard floor like I am, you'll need a yoga mat. Place it in the same orientation that I have mine. You'll need some water for hydration, and I want you to sip that whenever you need to. You'll need plenty of space around you, and you'll want to take off your shoes and socks so you can really feel what your feet are doing. Let's come into mountain pose now. With your feet under your hips, your knees are slightly bent. Your pelvis is neutral all the way around. Your rib cage is floating over your hips. Your ears are over your shoulders, and we'll bring our hands together in front of our heart center. Close your eyes here if you're comfortable doing that. And we'll start to deepen our breath. So remember, you can come back to mountain pose anytime you need to, for as long as you need to, if you need to take a break. It's always okay to do that. So now we'll draw the air down lower in our lungs than we normally do, starting to create the inhale down by the navel. And then we'll exhale completely. Keep in mind that we do this focused breathing at the beginning of our yoga sessions because this helps create the right internal environment for our practice. So our external environment right now is still, and we want to try to create that on the inside as well. Your deep breathing really lends itself to that internal stillness. Now let your eyes open if they're closed. Let's bring the arms down to the sides. Let's pick up our toes and wiggle them around a little bit. So while you're standing, that changes things, doesn't it? If you don't have weight on your toes, then that means you have to shift the weight back into your heels more. You may not have been aware that you did that, but if you're picking up your toes right now from a standing position, then you absolutely did that. And now let's bring the toes down, just let them rest. By the way, if you typically turn your feet out or in, let's make sure that they're even and straight. And now we'll shift our weight forward toward our toes and then back toward our heels. Inhale as you shift the weight forward toward your toes, and then exhale as it goes back toward the heels. And our arms will move in opposition to our weight shift. So as you shift the weight to the back, your arms are in front. Can you feel the weight shift across your feet? I can. I hope you can. Just let your arms float around you. Now come back to the center with your body weight. So the weight is even across your toes and heels. Now shift your weight to the right. Your right foot gets heavier. Shift your weight to the left. So once again, the arms are going in opposition to the legs. So this is helping to warm us up, but it's also helping us cultivate a better awareness of our feet. And that's part of our objective in this session. Because let's face it, unless our feet are hurting, when do we ever really think about our feet? Right? If you have achy feet, you think about them a lot. Otherwise, they're in the background. All right, let's come back to the center. Hands on the hips. We're going to circle the hips around. Think about your ankles. You're going to orbit the hips around the ankles. So this is also a kind of weight shift, isn't it? It's just a little more all-encompassing because we get the corners of our feet, if you will. And then we'll go the other way. Happening in your mid-body. Feel what's happening in your back, your abdomen, your hips. All right, going the other way now. And then we'll alternate directions every time. One more. Now bring your hips back so they're centered over your ankles. Now one heel up and then switch. So in keeping our awareness centered on our feet, what do you feel here? Do you feel the tremendous amount of toe stretch that we're creating? Where else do you feel it? Do you feel it across the top of your foot, maybe? The front of your ankle, maybe? Let the arms come down now. So the arms can sway from side to side along with your body. So I just want to show you from the side, your heel is coming way up. And of course you're shifting the weight from one foot to the other for the most part. All right, let's come back to the center. Now you may need to be near a wall or a countertop or a sturdy chair for this. Otherwise, we're just going to do it here on our mat or wherever you are. Up and down on both sets of tiptoes. Now we'll take the arms up and forward, and then down and back. And maybe your fingers touch together behind you. Maybe you can't reach around that far, and that's okay. Building some strength in our calf muscles. We're training balance. Even if you're holding on to something, you're holding on as little as possible. You're still training balance. So this is also a weight shift. We're shifting the weight onto the forefoot, right? And the toes. As we come up here, make sure you keep your elbows bent at the top if you need to. And that looks more like this. One more of these tiptoes. And then we'll come down. Now inhale, exhale, hands in front of your heart. That's chair pose. Inhale, stand up, sweep your arms up. Again, elbows can be bent. Exhale, sweep your arms down, sit back, hands together. And again. I'll show you from the side just so you can see the angle of the joints. So that's chair pose, and if you think about it, as we sit back and down, we're kind of in the shape of a chair. I don't know that I'd want to sit in a chair that was shaped exactly like this, but you get the idea. So as we stand up, the weight is pretty equal across our feet from our toes to our heels, but as we sit back, try to move the weight more into your heels so your toes are easy to wiggle. See if you can feel that. Make sure your knees are tracking toward the center of each foot and they're not collapsing inward or splaying outward. Now let's add this. Right heel up. You're on the tiptoes on that side. And this time, left heel. As we're building more awareness of our feet, we're also strengthening our core muscles here. We're strengthening our legs. We're limbering our shoulders and our ankles and our toes. All right, now this time, keep your heels down. Sit down into chair pose and stay here. Hands on the legs. Now we'll lift the tailbone up and out, and then we'll drop the tailbone downward. Feel what's happening in your low back as you do that. And just keep the weight even across your feet. Your toes are a little bit heavy. Heels are heavy. Now the shoulders are staying away from the ears. And we're not rounding the upper back. Just moving the pelvis. All right, now we'll come back to our chair pose. So can you find that from where we are now? So your pelvis is neutral. You're sitting into your heels. Your hands are in front of your heart center. Now make sure you steady yourself on your countertop, your chair, or your wall if you need to. Here's your option now, coming up on your tiptoes. Keep breathing. Now hands on the legs, heels down, and then slowly hinge your way back up to standing. Back up to mountain pose. And then inhale. Exhale. This is a hip hinge now. This is different. Even though it looks similar, it's different. Inhale, stand tall. And then as you exhale, your knees are soft. You bend right at your hip joints. Hip hinge. So it is exactly what it's called. You're hinging from your hips. Make sure you're offering lots of support with your hands on your legs. The weight is staying fairly even across the feet, from the toes to the heels, the forefoot. Now inhale and come up, and then exhale, shoulders back and down. Step out wide. You can take more than a couple steps if that's what it takes to get your feet wider than your shoulders considerably. Turn your toes out. Now hands on your legs. Inhale. Exhale, bend your knees and sit back with your hips. So my hips are now further away from you. Inhale, and as you exhale, just shift more weight into your right foot. And that will stretch the left leg a little bit. And then inhale, center, and over to the left. Exhale. So make sure your feet are wide enough apart to support this motion, with your knee not going too far beyond your ankle as you bend to that side. All right? Push your knees wider. Hands are once again supporting the weight of our torso. Now we'll add a twist. If you're comfortable here, then try this. Lean into your left leg, drop your right shoulder. And then inhale, center. Keep pushing your hips back. Exhale, lean into your right leg, drop your left shoulder. We have one more. Now let's inhale to the center, exhale, bend your left knee. We're going to stay here, so no twist. If you can, take both hands over to your left thigh. Make sure your knee is lined up with your ankle. So this left leg is working hard. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that. You can feel it. Shoulders away from ears. And of course, your left foot is heavier than your right foot. Can you wiggle your right toes? All right, let's switch. Inhale. Make sure your knee ends up over your ankle as you exhale. One or both hands over here. Can you wiggle your left toes? Our toes play a very large role in balance. So you'll notice when you wiggle them that maybe your body sways a little bit. All right, come back to center. Inhale. Sit back and down as you exhale. Sweep your arms down. Keep your back neutral. Do it again. One more time. All right, now we're going to turn this way to the right. You're coming up on the tiptoes of your left foot, and you're taking your fists, your fingertips, or your palms down. They can go down onto the mat or the floor if you're not using a mat, or you can use yoga blocks. So here we are in our kneeling lunge. Although we're not kneeling, we have the knee up. If you need to kneel, of course you can. Let's inhale. Now you're going to turn your back to me. Exhale, raise your back arm, twisting. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, we'll twist the other way with the other arm coming up. Let's do it again. Now you're on the tiptoes of your back foot, and you're flat on your front foot. All right, now we change sides. Here's how we'll do that. Walk hand over hand around, turn your toes, find your low lunge. Palms or fists or fingertips. Drop down into your low lunge or make it a kneeling lunge if you need to. Now we turn with our backs to one another. Inhale, exhale, and then switch. Two more. Feel the tiptoes on your back foot. All right, now we're coming back to center. Turn your toes out once again toward the corners of your mat, or where the corners would be if you're not using a mat. Take your hands on your thighs, bend your knees. You're sitting back with your hips. And then we'll rise up. let's turn this way. Turn your left toes in. Your right toes turn straight this way. And then we'll bend the right knee. Now this is key. Your knee stays over your ankle and your pelvis and your heart center turn toward me. So can you find both of those things? Primarily, we want the knee to stay over the ankle, but then try to turn your navel and your heart toward me. Level out your pelvis, and then we'll bring the thumbs up. So this is Warrior 2. Now let's try something different with our foot. Can you go up on the tiptoes of your right foot? Doesn't have to be very high. You can have your hands on your hips. You can steady yourself on something if you need to. All right, let's release that. Bring your heel down. Turn your right toes in. Remember, the heel up is an option. We're creating better foot awareness though, so that's why we're throwing those in today. Bend, knee over ankle, pelvis and heart center. Try to face it straight toward me. Level out your pelvis. And find your arms either here or here. And then tiptoes on your left foot if that's right for you. Have your arms out without tensing your shoulders too much. And then release. Turn back to the center. Carefully turn your toes out. Sit back with your hips, shoulders away from ears. Inhale, exhale, twist and hold. Keep breathing. Now I don't want you to lose your balance, but can you wiggle your toes on both feet? Don't lose your balance though. Now hold your toes still, just let them come down. Inhale to the center, exhale, drop your other shoulder. Keep breathing now. What about here? Can you wiggle your toes? See how it goes. All right, and then we're coming back to center and we're hinging all the way up. All right, turning this way. Now we're coming up on the tiptoes of the back foot. We're coming into a low lunge once again. Once again, use your yoga blocks under your hands if you need to. Let's inhale down into our low lunge, and then we'll exhale and straighten our right leg a little bit. Let's try it again. Two more. One more time. Now you may need to take a look. Before you straighten your leg, take a look. So here's where we're going next. We're going to straighten, and we're going to try to lift our entire right foot, except for our heel, up off the mat. All right, so join me now. Straightening your leg. Maybe you just lift your toes. Maybe you don't lift anything because it's too challenging for you. See what feels best for you. And then find your breathing. All right, let's bend the right knee. Walk hand over hand around to the other side. Make sure you end up with your feet back on that narrow railroad track. You're not on a tightrope with your feet, make sure. Now inhale, your knee is over your ankle. Exhale, bring a little bit of straightness to your left leg. And do it again. Now, just like we did on the first side, let's hold the straighter leg position now, and then see about maybe lifting your toes, maybe lifting more than just your toes. Your heel stays down. sometimes what works on the first side doesn't work so well on the second side, and vice versa. You could do something on the second side that you couldn't do on the first side. So make sure you make allowances for that, and that you don't force yourself or your body to do anything that doesn't feel good. All right, if your foot is up, bring it down. Let's turn toward the center once again. Turn the toes out once again. Hands on the legs, slowly with a neutral spine, hinge up. Turn your left toes in, turn your right toes out. Let's do triangle pose now. So your right toes and your right kneecap are facing straight this way. Your navel and your heart are trying to face straight this way. Your waist stays the same length on both sides. Your right hand finds your shin, and your left arm is up, or your left arm can be here. Do what feels best for your shoulder. Now, let's see if we can lift all 10 of our toes. So your heels are heavy, and all 10 of your toes are up. Maybe only 5, maybe only one foot, maybe the other foot. If you can't do 10, try to do 5. Relax your shoulders, keep your waist long on both sides. Looking up is an option. Looking forward is usually more suitable for more necks. Looking down is also an option. All right, if your toes are up, bring them down. Bend your right knee, come up, switch sides. Turn in, turn out. Now let's get all this going first. Knee and toes are this way. Pelvis and heart are this way. Tip, keep this length in your waist. Hand on your left shin, top arm up or down. And then we'll work with our toes. Can you bring 5 up? Maybe the other 5? Can you bring all 10 of them up? So if it's a little bit of a balance struggle, that's okay. If it's a big challenge, then that's probably not safe. So bring all of your toes down if you need to. Remember what we talked about earlier, your toes play a big role in balance. All right, and then we're helping ourselves up. Bend your knee. And then let's bring the feet in a little closer. Back to mountain pose. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. All right, now open your eyes. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see this one better. You can keep facing forward. Let's take one foot back, doesn't matter which one. Steady yourself on something if you need to. Otherwise, see how it feels to bend your knee. See how it feels to hold your ankle. If you can't hold your ankle, that's okay. You don't need to worry about that. Now we'll bring the knees side by side and we'll tuck the pelvis forward a bit to really ramp up the stretch in the front of your hip and the front of your thigh. Flexing your foot if you're holding onto your ankle. And then release. And we'll do the other side. I'm turning sideways again just so you can see. Take your foot back. This is your other foot now. Bend your knee, and if you can, hold your ankle. Flex your foot, knees are side by side, and then the final part, tuck your pelvis a little bit forward. Release. Facing forward, roll the shoulders. Now take your right leg across in front, square your hips, push your hips out to the left, right hand here, reach your top arm over. So this is a little bit of side stretch, and it's a big stretch down into the side of your hip, and maybe down here into what we call the IT band. Reverse. Step your left leg across in front, square your hips, Hand goes here, and then top arm is here. Push your hips out to the right. Breathe. All right, let's come up. Roll your shoulders up, back, and down. So how did you do? So not only did we create more foot awareness, but we created some challenges for our balance and our muscular endurance and our strength by changing what we typically would do with our feet in certain poses. Additionally, we challenged our brain because what we were doing was maybe different than what you're used to. That's a brain challenge. So we did all that in this session. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, be well.